Hello, lovely PC Gaming Weekspot viewer, and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot pre-show. My name is Colin Mahern, and with me today, in this, the relaxed portion of the PC Gaming Weekspot, is the almost horizontal Matthew Castle. Isn't that a phrase? I think that's what something people say. I'm pretty sure.
He's so laid back. He's horizontal.
I missed the first part of it, yeah.
He's so laid back. He's perpendicular to the ground.
Matthew, how are you? Are you well?
I am okay. I've emerged from my Cyberpunk reviews hell.
You've jacked out. Well, I'm going to ask you to jack in again for this, but
that's okay. So that's nice. I feel like I was in Night City for quite an intense amount of time, and I'm glad to be out. And now I'm weirdly, it left me with a real hankering to play Red Dead 2 again.
I get that. Now, I suppose this is probably, I don't want to go into it too much.
Not to preempt the chat, but
100%. Like it's a Rockstar game set in the future. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? We'll go into all this in the episode proper, but it just left me wanting to just poodle around there. It might also just be a reaction to the city. Like you spend all that time in like a very urban place. I just want to go and see a tree, or lots of trees and a mountain.
I suppose rather than cannibalize our cyberpunk thoughts, what was your longest cyberpunk session? What was like when you were most certainly jacked in?
I think I did a day where I did like 13 hours.
That's a lot.
Like an 8 till 9 kind of job.
Some furious jacking.
I was really jacking it.
Very so. My eyeball started to hurt at the weekend. I don't know if that was, but I was like, an eyeball isn't meant to hurt, but my right one did. I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd because I played it on mostly on my PC on my desktop rather than the PC attached to the TV in the living room, which is obviously a more relaxing place because I can slouch on the sofa. So it's quite an intense kind of at the desk session. I find sitting at my desk for 13 hours is probably unhealthy. I always worry that my legs are going to seize up. What's that thing you get on planes that kills you later? In your legs.
The plane leg disease.
You know that thing where you don't move your legs and then like a blood clot zooms up and kills you?
I do.
Deep vein thrombosis. That was always the thing I associated with flight because of like horror stories in the paper of like, your legs are jammed in behind a chair and you're going to get this horrendous blood clot. And I always think of that whenever I'm on a flight. I think, oh God,
do you have a fear
am I going to lose the Russian roulette?
Do you have a fear of flying because of it?
Not the actual flying. I have a fear of my legs sending a blood bullet to my brain.
Right. Okay.
Which I think is how it works.
I believe so. Well,
but I don't know if it's your legs being cramped in or just being in a sitting position for too long. I don't really know the science behind it, as you may have cottoned on. So yeah, who knows?
Well, we're kind of skirting around it. So there is a lot of cyberpunk to talk. So let us begin this week's edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colin Mahern, and joining me this week, he is jacked in, he is all cyber and computerized, and the 80s representation of the future. It is the one, the only. It's Mr. Matthew Castle.
Hello.
Hello, Matthew. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent.
I'm ready to jack in.
Yeah, there's I mean, maybe, dear viewer, dear listener, you've had your fill of Cyberpunk because it has most certainly dominated the news cycle, the review cycle, the guide cycle, all of the bicycles. But you're going to get a little bit more of it here today because Matthew has played, I don't know, loads. And I have played not as much, but I have played, basically this weekend, I played absolute shit tons. So, there's going to be a lot of cyberpunk talk on this week's show, but we do have other things to discuss as well, Matthew, because there was a big presentation during the week. It was apparently an awards show, but I don't know, some may doubt that. But even before we get into that, Matthew, can you crank open that gob of yours for me? Because I have some information snacks for you.
Info snacks for his gob.
So in smaller news stories in the last week, Microsoft have announced or revealed or stated that Halo Infinite will be released in autumn 2021.
That isn't a reveal. If you give a season, that isn't a reveal. A reveal should be kept for specifically a date, I think. You can't say, like, today we are proud to reveal it's coming out in an incredibly vague time window. You're like, fantastic.
12 months on as well, which is, but look.
Well, they've got to do graphics, haven't they? So people don't meme them into the grave.
True enough, yeah. But look forward to, like, a special brute called Craig or a statue dedicated to Craig. They'll probably do something like that. In other news, Cloud Chamber Games, the developer behind the next BioShock, have inadvertently revealed that the game, it's BioShock 4 or whatever it will be called, will be an open world RPG, or at least that's what it looks like from job listings, essentially. Now, BioShock as a series is not open world, but it's not like BioShock was completely restrictive and, like, broken down into levels. So I don't think it's a mass. Like, what I'm envisioning is, say, a BioShock Infinite, but there are no loading screens. You can just walk around the place. It's like in BioShock, you do a lot of backtracking anyway. So I don't. I feel like
it's kind of got you. The route's pretty fixed through the game, I guess.
I mean, it's linear. Yeah, I suppose. The RPG, like, I don't know. Yeah, the RPG aspect of it is like, okay. Sure, I don't know. Like,
I would say it kind of already has that in its DNA. You're building a specific character, you're investing points in certain things, you're upgrading certain things, the plasmids you buy. I mean, I would say it wouldn't have to be more of an RPG than it already is to still be an RPG.
Yeah, unless it's maybe dialogue options or whatever else. I don't know. But we will see. We will see in due course.
Would you kindly, and then you just get the option to say yes or yes.
Take-Two's £750 million bid for Codemasters has basically been shat on by Electronic Arts. We spoke about this before, that Take-Two and Codemasters came to a formal agreement on the sale last month. But only at the weekend, and as of Monday morning, EA confirmed that they put forward a bid worth $1.2 billion, or in sterling, 895 million, give or take. So Take-Two have now withdrawn their bid, and they said they are considering their position in relation to Codemasters, and a further announcement will be made when appropriate. So I like this bidding war. It might turn into something very pro wrestling related. It reminds me a little bit of the name of the contract does say McMahon, but it says Shane McMahon. It's fine, Matthew. It's bullshit wrestling stuff.
This has an undercurrent of, well, we didn't want them anyway, really.
Yeah.
There's something about someone pulling out and going, nah. It's a bit anticlimactic, isn't it? Because it's sort of, it's like the auction is really exciting up until the point where it stops, and then the last person I always think looks a little bit silly because it means the other person's been like, no, it's too rich for my blood. It's not really worth that, and it shows that you are a weird outlier. I know that's the nature of auctions, but
The Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game re-release, that now, they revealed that there's a release date for that. Ubisoft did. It originally launched on PS3 and 360 way back in 2010. But this version, the complete edition, that is coming to PC and will be available from the 14th of January 2021. So something nice to start the year. It will include the base game and all the DLC and some other new bits thrown into.
To start the new year. I'll go as far as that.
Never got on board with the kind of the hype around Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I like the film, but the game's like, it's like a nothing, isn't it? It's a nothing game.
I think the game came out at a time when there weren't many side-scrolling brawlers, so it felt, I suppose.
So people didn't know what a good one looked like. I get you.
And it's all right. It's all right. But yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
See?
Sign me up for some of that all right game.
The Prince of Persia, well, we'll talk about an all right game later on as well. The Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time remake has been delayed. It was originally scheduled to launch on the 20th of January 2021, but it will now be coming on the 18th of March. And reading between the lines on Ubi's statement, they haven't said this, but it sounds like it's COVID-related delay, because they mentioned that, quote, 2020 has been a year like no other, which is correct. They are right. It has been a year like no other.
A very astute observation from Ubisoft there.
Indeed. And next year, you will be able to play every mainline Yakuza on PC, as the remaster collection will be available from maybe this is something nicer to start your year, on the 28th of January.
This is nice.
And Yakuza 6 will be released on the 25th of March. And guess what, Matthew? They're all going to be on Game Pass.
Sweet yes. Game Pass. Next year, I'm going to play the whole Yakuza series.
Enjoy it, Matthew.
That's my ambition for the year, because I've played bits and bobs from throughout the series. I'm going to play the whole thing. That's my New Year's resolution.
You're going to
try and get a job.
But in that order.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And obviously, the news was dominated by one game in particular, but we're going to cover all of that in show and tell, because it feels like our enjoyment or lack thereof, intrigue, as well as the news around that game, it all goes hand in hand. So we'll talk about all of that later on. So those are your information snacks for the week. Yes, headlines and hot takes is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot, where I and Matthew discuss the bigger news stories of the past week. And the news was very much dominated by Geoff Keighley's night of announcements, reveals, and trailers, brackets, and awards as well. Last Thursday, was it? Now, I mean, we haven't spoken about this beforehand, but I wasn't going to mention the awards at all because, Geoff doesn't care, so why would we? It is a night of reveals, announcements, and trailers. That's essentially what it is.
I thought that was more obvious than ever. I thought it was a bit of a shame because the way he just rattles them off, it's just like I just don't understand what he gets out of it by calling it an awards. He just go, it's winter. It's the winter showcase. It's Geoff Keighley's winter showcase. Yeah. And let's not pretend, because it disrespects people to pretend that you're interested in, I think he announced 4 of 20 awards in the actual show. 4 or 5. It was really limited. I did like it when Sean Murray won, when No Man's Sky, won Best Ongoing Game, and he seemed genuinely surprised that it wasn't Fortnite, to the point where he just didn't have a speech and said, "Oh, I assumed this was going to be a Fortnite prize." That made me laugh.
I stayed up for a little bit and watched, but I was like, what am I doing? I'll just go to bed and look at the trailers tomorrow. But I did see Sean Murray collecting on behalf of Hello Games, and it did seem like a genuinely nice moment. He was there drinking his bottle of Corona or whatever it was, and was quite surprised, as you said. I think he even said, I thought this was going to be Fortnite. So it was, that was a nice moment. And that would be, we discussed it a couple of weeks ago, but it would whatever. Anyway, yes, there were a number of games announced. So we're not going to cover all of them, but let's get into some of them. And one, I'm hoping, Matthew, that this takes you back to a simpler time in your childhood, a nicer time, a darker time. It's Perfect Dark. Oh my word. So the sci-fi shooter series from the GoldenEye devs, Rare, it is coming back. Now, this was been rumored for quite a while, but we got some concrete details on it. It is being made by The Initiative, which is the new studio Microsoft set up 2 years ago. And there was 2 videos that were released. We got the trailer and we got some of the developers themselves talking. And game director Dan Neuberger said, quote, to take something that's been so long since the first installment and sort of rethink what that could be and how we bring that into the modern era is a really interesting problem to solve. We are leaning very heavily on, quote, what is a secret agent? And there's a lot of gameplay diversity that comes into that. And we aren't shying away from that. Other people in the video mentioned that, you know, there was a big focus on, we love secret agents. And they spoke about reinventing the franchise of Perfect Dark. And someone else said, quote, you have to avoid doing too much devoted to the past and not enough. You have to find the right spot in the middle. So what is that right spot in the middle, Matthew?
Well, it's quite a tricky one, this, because it's quite an old game, and a lot of its ideas probably don't hold up as well now.
Like for some of us younger people, you know, like me and the other people watching, like we're like, what is this crazy retro game? Like what was Perfect Dark?
So Perfect Dark was sort of Rare's follow-up to GoldenEye, and it built on GoldenEye in a lot of ways. It had a bit more story in the missions. There was a bit more variety. So it's a first-person shooter. There's some big action levels, but there are also sort of stealth levels. There are some things which almost feel like a very light version of Deus Ex, like sort of social, not social hubs, but there was like a level in the streets where you could walk around and meet characters, and there were almost sort of story objectives as well as action objectives. It had amazing guns and gadgets. All the guns had secondary features, so they all doubled up in really interesting ways. It had this sort of sci-fi kind of conspiracy sort of tone. It's an original IP, so it wasn't based on anything. It was just this mad mishmash of like, there's a lot of sort of Area 51 kind of alien Roswell stuff, along with kind of big evil corporations. It was quite Blade Runner-y. I mean, really, it is a giant mishmash of stuff. It, of course, had a really substantial single-player mode and a massive multiplayer suite, which was like GoldenEye, but there was even more of it. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was a really massive complete package.
Why then? Because from what you're describing to me is like, it's GoldenEye, but bigger, better, more extravagant. Why is it not kind of lauded as much as GoldenEye, do you think?
Well, it was at the time, I think. GoldenEye's a bit simpler, easier to get in. Like the Bond angle is just much more graspable, accessible. I think it's partly because the next Perfect Dark game, Perfect Dark Zero, was kind of duff. It was a 360 launch game, and it just wasn't right. It just didn't feel like Perfect Dark at all. It's a really, I think it's a really terrible, terrible game, actually. And it probably killed a lot of people's love, because you were like, well, if this is, and that was made by Rare, so you were like, well, if this is what it is now, then kind of who cares? And it just didn't feel like there was any buzz for it. But there is no reason to not go back and basically ignore Perfect Dark Zero and take another swing at it. I'm hugely intrigued by what they do with this, because, you know, it could be a great Call of Duty style package, but for spy games, a great single player campaign, a big multiplayer thing. But I think they've mainly said single player. Whether it's going to be like self-contained levels that you play over and over again with that bit of sandboxy action, you know, the fact that this trailer, which is meant to be like a mood or tone piece for the game, is sort of set in this city and is quite like free moving over the city. I don't know if that's like a implication that it may be, a bit open worldy. Are they going to do more of a, like a sort of Dying Light style kind of shooter set in an open world city? It's really hard to extract anything from this particular trailer in terms of like what the game is going to be.
Was the original Perfect Dark very fast? Was it because the trailer itself, you're flying over the city, everything feels a bit Mirror's Edge almost?
Yeah, mainly because it was on the N64 and was struggling to kind of move at all. It wasn't very fast. I always played it as a very stealthy game. There was a lot of silent pistols, taking my time, scanning stuff. I feel like it has the original game has the spread of gadgets that it could be a bit immersive simmy if they wanted it to be. Like, I think what they could do is basically go, well, they're not making Deus Ex anymore. Mm-hmm. We could just fit our slightly poppier spy fiction over the top of like the Deus Ex and basically do a Deus Ex sandboxy type thing. That would be immense.
Sign me up.
I'd really be up for that. I don't particularly, I don't know, like a bit, just embedding it into an open world game. I don't know if that would necessarily work because I think part of the spy fiction fantasy is being very, not choreographed, but there are certain tropes which are quite kind of fixed and isolated in spy fiction that would work better in a level or a fixed space. Like part of a spy fiction isn't like, I've got a whole city to run around. I'm doing all this mad shit and clearing out and doing all this mundane stuff. I'd say spies are, I don't know, stealth in open worlds. Not always.
I suppose this isn't a spy story from, like, it's typically you go to a location, you try and infiltrate the location as quietly as possible. And then you extracted the person or thing or whatever it is you want from that location, and then you leave. Like, it is very, stealthy, as you say.
But Perfect Dark did do plenty of action. Like, there were giant action levels where you were trying to kind of, like, they hijack Air Force One and you have to fight back. And it goes towards, like, it does a lot of alien bullshit at the end, which I'm not wild about. But there's basically, you're just running around alien planet with, like, machine gun. But it's the fact that it did a mix of things that I really liked, and I hope that's something they continue to do. It was really replayable because of that. I've played Perfect Dark single player probably more than I've played any other single player campaign. Not the whole thing, just specific levels over and over again. I mean, yeah, there's a huge amount they can do with this. It's quite hard to work out what they're doing with it based on. Lots of people like to look at the people they've hired at the studio and they're like, oh, it's got all this alumni from Naughty Dog, so is it going to be third person and stuff like that? I think that's a bit of a dead end with these things, but they've got some interesting people on. The studio head, Daryl Gallagher, is he was the kind of, not the studio head, but I think the lead producer on all the Tomb Raider reboot stuff. So I think he's got quite good pedigree in terms of delivering, relaunching, rebooting, reimagining, because, arguably, whatever you think of the Tomb Raider, the 2013 or whatever it was, reboot, it arrived as a really complete package, I think. It really knew what it wanted to be and was very clear. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was work on that kind of inspired them to bring him on as the head of this studio. I'm kind of really intrigued by this one for sure.
I mean, yeah, I've zero history with Perfect Dark, but sign me up for the game that you've just mentioned. Even the Tomb Raider connection I find interesting, as long as, like, I thought Tomb Raider played well, but the story was absolute bin. But like, if they could, provide something better than that would be great. In other news, one of the other bigger games that they showed off during the Game Awards was a strange one. Because it's basically Dead Space, but it's set in the PUBG universe. So the Callisto Protocol is the first game from Striking Distance Studios, which is the developer that is headed up by Glenn Schofield, which is a name that you may be familiar with. He co-founded Sledgehammer Games, and he was also the creator of Dead Space. And after the trailer was shown at the Game Awards, he chatted to Geoff very briefly, and he said about this game, he said it is a, quote, single-player, third-person, story-driven survival horror game set in the year 2320 on Jupiter's moon of Callisto. Our goal is to make the single most scariest game for PC and consoles. He also teased that they're going to be revealing something else further in, like, I don't know, probably a couple of days of this episode coming out, actually. The scariest game ever. Now, I think it was in an interview with IGN, he also kind of stated that fact. But would you have said that Dead Space was the scariest game ever? Like, I
think it is pretty scary. I think it's more intense. I think Dead Space does a brilliant job of tapping into that kind of aliens energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And whether that's like particularly scary for you, I would say it was a pretty intense game. I think too, also like just really in your face. It's a game that gets up in your grill. I think it delivered on that. I don't think it's spooky necessarily, but it's pulse racing for sure. A great pedigree, great team. I'm personally really, really excited about this combination. I think the PUBG link's probably just going to be some bullshit. I mean, who cares?
I find it so like, because it wasn't new information that there was going to be more games set in this PUBG universe, because that was first stated probably a couple of months ago now. But still, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, it's Dead Space. Then you see Schofield. Then you're all right, okay, I get where, and then you kind of put two and two together about it being set in the PUBG universe. So like, but it's being positioned as a single player game. Like, this isn't a horror, but like a Dead Space battle royale, which is the odd thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know the nature of the relationship, but I think the idea of using this hugely popular platform as a launching point for other games, which sound cool, but maybe, can sort of struggle. Big publishers aren't really backing this kind of stuff at the moment. The idea of using your huge player base to kind of get everyone's attention and get them into this sort of side thing, that's really cool. Even if you have
totally agreed.
If you have to crowbar in some like nonsense to actually tie it together narratively, then so be it. I want studios to feel like they can make games like this. And if this is what it takes, then I'm absolutely fine with that. Like, I like single player, third person action games. There haven't been enough of them this generation. Just because that's too expensive to make for the risk, I guess.
And exactly. The return, it's harder to get more money off your players after, because you're not going to be pumping out costumes or whatever it is, cosmetics of any kind. But yeah, as you say, if the PUBG link just brings the Callisto Protocol in front of more people, it looks cool. I don't know, could be shite, nobody knows. But it is, I don't know, I don't really see much harm in it, I suppose.
Oh, I'm up for this.
Did you play Dead Space 3 at all? You didn't, yeah. Like a lot of people.
I didn't like what I saw of it. Thought, nah.
Yeah, that was the co-op one that people didn't really enjoy. And like you mentioned, that they're not making a lot of these days. And EA famously, when Dead Space 3 was coming out, mentioned that, was it 6 million they were after? Or am I mixing that up with a Capcom thing? Because I think Capcom are prone to that as well. But I think EA they were forecasted something like 6 million copies. I was like, for Dead Space 3, are you having a laugh? Like, you're going to get the fans and it will sell decently, but calm down. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about the Callisto Protocol. In other news, at the Game Awards, another game that was revealed was, while I quickly try and pull up my notes. Oh, yes. Kind of a double feature, in fact. So BioWare, we knew that they were going to show up with Dragon Age, which indeed they did. So before we get on to their other one, now, as we discussed last week, the two of us, not exactly the biggest Dragon Age fans, but news writer Imogen Beck-Helling of Rock Paper Shotgun, she mentioned in a post on the site that it looks like we have a new setting, possibly this place called Tevinter. Don't know what any of that means. But Solus, the bald egg, I know him, he's back. And also the trailer was voiced by Varric. So I don't know. We'll see. But the game that myself and Matthew are more interested in, unless you have anything to add, but I
didn't really like the trailer for this Dragon Age.
Oh, okay. I thought we were just going to breeze past Dragon Age. All right, go on. Why didn't you like the trailer?
I just thought, like, I was sort of half watching the show. I was like, I thought it reminded me of that weird stealth game about the goblin.
Weird stealth game about the goblin.
Styx.
Oh, STYX. Yeah.
I thought it was that to begin with. It wasn't until Old Egg Boy at the end arrived, and it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So this didn't make a Dragon Age fan out of you, is what you're saying to me?
Well, I really, really like Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't know. Just the tone of it wasn't quite what I was expecting compared to like those very early sort of concepty bits that they showed a few months ago, where it just seemed to have a bigger, I don't know, it all seemed a bit kind of sort of higgledy-piggledy kind of gothic sort of fantasy. And I as a personal taste thing, it didn't quite click with me. But yeah.
One thing that did click with me though, I don't know, the game that I'm imagining in my head is quite good, so I hope they deliver on it. Because BioWare also gave us a little glimpse at Mass Effect 4, Mass Effect 5, if you include Andromeda, the next Mass Effect, they're calling it currently. And in this trailer, where it just kind of, a camera went through space for a bit, at the very end, we saw a snowy planet. It was the image that they released a couple of weeks ago, whenever that was. But yeah, it was a snowy planet, and you can see a couple of people off in the distance. One of them looks like Morden, well, a Solarian. There's another, what are Rex and Grunt called? What are they called again? Their species. I can't remember.
Krogan.
The big lads. Krogan, that's it. And here, big reveal at the end, it's Liara, the Asari Queen. And I suppose she picks up a piece of N7 armor, which makes you go, so this seems more like Mass Effect 4 rather than Andromeda 2 then. But, as we all know, spoilers for Mass Effect 3, Matthew, I think it's okay, isn't it? Enough time has passed.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, it's quite, it would be quite difficult to do a Mass Effect 3, I suppose, story-wise, with Shepard anyway. But yeah, what did you think of this trailer, Matthew? Did this get you pumped up for maybe this sort of like these outcast rogue group of different species? Liara's there in her kind of tattered hood. Seems a bit like, that seemed cool to me.
Yeah, I like that there is going to be more Mass Effect. I like the music in the trailer. I'm not enough of a Mass Effect nerd that, like, a lot of the iconography, I think some people were going like, oh, this means this. Like, I wouldn't be able to, like, comment on any of that. Like, I just don't know I don't know or remember the lore well enough to go, oh, that's so-and-so, or this means this is happening.
Well, the N7 armor, like that is your original trilogy.
Like, I've seen lots of chat about, like, there are lots of, like, hints allegedly buried in the trailer and whatnot, but nothing that jumped out at me where I was like, oh, it's that thing. Like Mass Effect, more in the vein of Mass Effects 1 to 3. I wouldn't say no to. I think we said this before on an earlier episode. Like, I wouldn't be against another Andromeda style game, like taking a second swing at that style that has the kind of exploration in it. I think that's something the other Mass Effects don't necessarily have. They're quite like linear spaces. But yeah, like, good characters. Why not return to them? I'm up for this. Feels like it's a way off, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, this and Dragon Age. Like Dragon Age, maybe not so much, but I don't think we'll be seeing.
Dragon Age feels closer, right?
Dragon Age does feel closer, but yeah, Mass Effect. Like we won't be seeing anything. We won't be seeing gameplay or anything like that for Mass Effect for quite a while, I'd imagine. But speaking of, in fact, a game that we did see gameplay of was Back for Blood, which sounds like a Take That song, but it's not. It's actually the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead from Turtle Rock Studios. So it's it even has the 4 in the middle. Like it's Left 4 Dead 3 more or less.
Yeah, basically.
It's your 4-player online co-op as well as 4v4 online PvP deal. And yeah, it's coming out in June, the 22nd of June 2021, but there is a closed alpha starting on the 17th of December. Do you know what, right? So I mentioned that I stayed up for a little bit watching the Game Awards. And when this trailer came on, my first thought was, God, video games are very violent, aren't they?
You're such an old man.
It's just, Jesus Christ, they are so violent. But I don't have history with Left 4 Dead. Have you? Or if you don't, are you still interested in this?
It's not one of my favourites. I've enjoyed what I've played of it, but it's not something where, I haven't been waiting for a new Left 4 Dead alike, which this is. I'd say this looks slightly like gooier and more unpleasant than Left 4 Dead. I think Left 4 Dead has a slightly broader, slightly more charming vibe to it. Like this looks very kind of blood and guts and a bit less subtle, maybe.
So subtle, like what do you mean?
Like the
subtle
enemy design's a bit more grotesque and like just the violence seems the combat in the demo they showed seems a little kind of punchier. Maybe it's just the graphics have come on a bit, and this is just what Left 4 Dead would look like now. I don't know.
I'd guess it's a part of that as well, as because when did Left 4 Dead 2 come out?
Didn't Left 4 Dead? I don't know. It's been a while since I've played it. But yeah, and it's just the way they talk about it. Like it feels like some of the stuff they were saying about it, like new weapons and new enemy types or whatever, and it's so openly the old template with new bits. Like that's how you talked about Left 4 Dead 2, or even more enemy types. And I don't know if in this day and age, just a checklist of more is ever quite enough. I quite like this big boy coming out of the ground. I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, these games are so sort of inherently entertaining. I think even when there's not amazing versions of them, like World War Z when that came out, that was still entertaining enough. Like there is just something. It was all there is inherent fun in teaming up with friends to fight, waves of screeching zombies. And that's kind of my relationship with the original Left 4 Deads as well. Like it's just I get the core fun, but I know people who played it for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. Like they were obsessed with it, and that it never really kind of got me in that way. But
I mean, time will tell whether this will grab those people.
Yeah, I hope Turtle Rock have a bit of success, because I actually quite liked Volve when they did that.
So did I.
I thought it didn't really get a proper chance, or maybe it didn't explain itself well enough. But I was
if like when it launched, do you remember when it launched? It was a little bit ropey. There were some issues. There were some issues at launch, and it. But in saying that, I very much like the premise. I like being, it feels like you get that a lot now in games, but unless I'm misremembering, I don't think you got it as much. They're like, you can be the monster. I thought it was a nice little idea, but it just, it didn't really go places. They tried when they went free to play, but it just didn't have the legs. So
No.
We'll see whether this one will do. Then, Matthew, this was the most weirdest thing ever. Because I think we all had the exact same response to this trailer. Every single one of us looked at this man and said, "Is that Vin Diesel?" And yes, we were all right. It was Vin Diesel. Arc 2.
I actually thought this was Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
I thought Vin Diesel was in Horizon Zero Dawn, and this is going to be like some kind of like playable prologue that explains how all the dinosaurs got turned into robots or something. I really didn't think this was going to be Arc 2.
Well, I mean, so we know Vin Diesel is in this game, right? And yes, it is the sequel to Arc 2, but like the original Arc is a survival game where like the trailers aren't representative of the game because it's just you stay alive and you kill dinosaurs. It's not like it's full to the brim with gripping story.
If this was true to Arc 1, it would just be Vin Diesel punching a tree for bark clippings so that he can build a very unimpressive hut that probably then glitches out.
It's very odd. And on top of that as well, I suppose we're quick to forget sometimes how much money certain games make, because we got a reminder when there was a reveal that there's also an Arc cartoon coming with a voice cast that includes Carl Urban, David Tennant, Elliot Page, Russell Crowe, and multiple other movie stars. So let's say, right, this is it's a Horizon shout. Yeah, it looks kind of similar. I don't think it's an outlandish statement to say that when you first see this that you would think, right, Horizon prologue.
Except until once it got going, the character animation is kind of ropey. I know it's a little previs, a little thing, but like the dimensions on him seem off. Like his head's too big for his body.
Does Vin Diesel have a large head? I think he does.
Yeah, but I just thought this. I was like, wow, I was so convinced this was a Horizon, and then I was also thinking, wow, Horizon's really dropped the ball. What's happened to its like looks? Any
interest in a story-driven arc, like where full of dinosaurs?
I played a bit of Arc. I thought it was absolute dog shit.
Oh, really? Right.
But I played it on Xbox, and I think it was jank on PC. On Xbox, they basically shouldn't have released it, and it kind of left me feeling a bit like, fuck these people. I don't really ever want to play any of their stuff ever again. It's terrible state.
A video game I'm pretty sure you don't think is terrible is Disco Elysium. So we quite a big update coming to Disco Elysium. Something they're calling the final cut. The developer Zoom said that this will have a full voice acting for all characters, a new area, quests, controller support, a massive update. Now I know you played this already. When was that? Was that 19? That was only 19, wasn't
it? Yeah.
You played this already. You loved it. Is this enough to get you back into the discotheque?
Yeah, I mean, I only played it through once pretty thoroughly, and obviously it's a game where there's a huge amount of variety and different characters you can bring in. There's a lot to see. I'll it's a free update on PC, I'm pretty sure. So I'd be up for it. It's a really stunning game. An absolutely brilliant bit of world building. Like really character driven RPG of probably the highest quality. A great detective story as well. I really rate it as a mystery, and the way everything folds in. I think it's actually quite underrated as a detective game. I'm kind
of derailing it a little bit, so we don't have to spend loads of time on this. But the reason I didn't play Disco Elysium was because I was told that it didn't actually work as a murder mystery, because it goes into spoilers, so I can't go into it.
No, it's like the story, like you're led to the solution in a relatively linear way, given that it's a game all about choice and everything. But what I like is that it is a world that is full of mysteries that don't seem connected. And actually, a lot of elements are surprisingly part of the main quest. Like it feels totally complete in a really sort of fascinating way. They've added more to it still and can still maintain that kind of vibe. I'd be really up for it. It's not a traditional detective game. The central mystery, like, it's arguable you don't really solve it yourself. But you don't come out. I came out feeling like I'd waded in a mysterious place, and I liked the ending a lot. So yeah, it's good.
A game I will definitely be there for.
Good.
Is Open Roads. This is the next game from Fulbright, the developer behind Gone Home and the lesser known but good Tacoma.
Tacoma is better than Gone Home, I think.
Oh, I disagree. I didn't
really like Gone Home.
I loved Gone Home, but I think time maybe there have been better versions of Gone Home since Gone Home. You know, like Gone Home was. It felt groundbreaking, but then, better games came along. Anyway, this one is coming out in 2021. It's your first-person adventure game about a mother and daughter who go on a road trip searching for lost family secrets. If the game is like the trailer, I think this is cool. Where you have this 3D world, and I don't even know how to describe them. These characters that look drawn, but sort of move in a very stop-motion-like way.
They look sort of rotoscoped.
Yes. Yeah. It looks quite cool, but the two characters, you may know the actresses playing the mother and daughter. Caitlin Dever, who's in that very good Netflix show Unbelievable, and other things I haven't seen, like Justified. And the mother will be voiced by Kerry Russell, who, if you've watched The Americans or Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker, you may be familiar with her.
Or Mission Impossible 3.
Or Mission Impossible 3, indeed. Matthew, a game that is actually quite similar because it involves road tripping again with my two favourite allies. It is Road 96. This is from the makers of Valiant Hearts and Memories Retold. Again, it looks to me like a story-driven game, but it's procedurally generated. But in the trailer, you see your character, going into a diner, being held at gunpoint. You're in the back of a squad car. You're getting arrested. It seems like, I don't know. It seems like almost a Telltale game to me, but I'm led to believe it's not. It looks interesting. I'm very curious about this one. Unless you have anything to say about that.
No, I'm not for 2021 being the year of virtual road trips.
Yeah, well, I mean, we might actually be able to take road trips ourselves next year. I mean, fingers crossed, for the love of Christ. But arguably the game of the show, and when they said the name of the game, I was like, please have the song. And they had the song. It Takes Two, baby. This is the next game from Hazelight Studios, which is, Joseph, what's his surname? Faris, that's it. Developer who brought you A Way Out. It Takes Two is coming out on the 26th of March. And the dev said about this game, you quote, play as the clashing couple, Cody and May, two humans turned into dolls by a magic spell. Trapped in a fantastical world, they're reluctantly challenged with saving their fractured relationship by the suave love guru, Dr. Hakim. It looks very similar to A Way Out, but a little bit more fun, I suppose. And when you discover who made this game, Hazelight Studios and, Joseph Faris, as we said, it sort of goes against the public perception of him, doesn't it? Because it does seem so bouncy and fun and light.
I don't know. Brothers had a lightness to it in places.
Brothers, well, it had more of a sentimentality. Like this seems more rompy,
Yeah.
But I'd say, sign me up. This seems like quite a
I'm up for this. I hope this.
Game.
My big problem with A Way Out was that I didn't think there was actually much co-op interaction between the two characters. It felt like two single-player action games playing out in tandem. If they could find more meaningful ways of the characters interacting, actually, make a co-op game like they said they were going to, I think this could be good. But I was really disappointed by A Way Out.
I was expecting very little, so I was quite surprised and enjoyed A Way Out. Because I don't know, I wasn't expecting much, and I thought it would fall flatter. But I thought it was a very interesting idea, and but
it takes two, baby.
Like you say, it maybe is more like two concurrent single player games rather than.
I like the colours
thing. In this, yes, very much so. And finally, in our little Game Awards roundup, Mother of God, we have a release date: Super Meat Boy Forever. It is coming out on the 23rd of December, and there's very little to say about it apart from that, other than Jesus Christ, this could very well be my game of the year. I cannot wait for this. I loved Super Meat Boy. But this seems like the natural evolution, because Super Meat Boy, the original, obviously, and Team Meat were very much influenced by Mario, it was clear as day. But this is, you have more complete levels. It's not screens, and I'm very much looking forward to this. Have you any attachment to Super Meat Boy?
Yeah, I like it enough. I'm quite bad at it, but I thought this looked fun. I like the variety in the trailer. Good. Yeah, no, very much looking forward to that. There's my spicy take.
And there were, unless you have anything to say,
no, let's skip all the others.
We had all right, okay, fair enough. Now I know why you want to skip all the others. Right, because Matthew sees it. It's that beloved right angle. It's coming right up. Yes, Tech Corner, baby.
Let's get it over and done with, shall we?
Matthew, we're giving this about 25 minutes. The people love Tech Corner, so you got to give them what they want. Somebody has created, a nice little good Samaritan out there. They have created a bot that checks for stock of Nvidia RTX cards in various, I believe it's only American retailers, and they're live streaming it on Twitch. It's amazing. No, you won't get many surprises. They're predominantly out of stock, which is a shame. But still, somebody doing God's work. So, thank you very much. I still haven't got one, Matthew. Fucking bastards. But what have you ever gone out of your way to help somebody, Matthew? Because I feel like that's what's happening here. Somebody is helping the rest of us. So what is the kindest deed you have ever completed?
Well, you're not really meant to say, are you? Because, it's meant to be
well, all right.
It's meant to be selfless.
It's meant to be, but is there any good deed that is selfless? Like, the majority are pretty selfish because they make you feel good. So, I don't know, unless you give somebody, have you ever given somebody a kidney?
No.
All right, then. I guess that's that.
Show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes, Show and Tell is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where myself and Matthew discuss the video games, or game in this case, that we've been playing over the last 7 days. And yes, Matthew has played a lot of Cyberpunk 2077. I have played, just over the weekend gone, quite a decent amount, but not as much, of Cyberpunk 2077. And right, let's get into it, Matthew. Let's get into it, because there will be people watching this. Like, typically, I'll ask you, give me press information on the Sky Remote. Break down what is this game. But for Cyberpunk, it feels a little bit needless because a lot of people know what it is. Or do they? Right? Because a lot of people think this is an open world RPG. So I am going to ask you, Matthew, what is Cyberpunk 2077?
I think Cyberpunk 2077 is actually kind of a couple of different games in one, and some of them are stronger than others. I think it is a very cinematic story campaign which gives you a little bit of leeway to express yourself in the action by building a character that's geared for stealth or gunplay or melee or whatever. But where the major impact on the game is decided by story, conversation decisions. And that in itself is very polished. It's probably the most polished bit of the game anyway. And it's the bit I like the most. I like the story. I like the momentum of it. I like the set pieces. I really like the characters. Then I'd say around this game is the open world map with the kind of some of the busy work you might expect from a Ubisoft map. There are lots of gangs to clear out and this kind of stuff. And then there is a slightly higher tier of side content, which is more crafted levels, which they call gigs, which kind of fit within certain categories of like infiltration, saving someone, killing, assassination, that kind of thing. And they are a bit more like your kind of Deus Ex immersive sim, kind of their buildings you can tackle in multiple ways. Some have little narrative elements, others have multiple routes in. I'd say they are a bit more flexible than anything or than the majority of the main campaign. They're also a little undercooked, I'd say, because I don't think a lot of its systems are necessarily as tight or good or interesting as they could have been. And that for me is why the campaign works better, because I think there it's moving at such a lick and there's so much bespoke action and interesting stuff that you don't really notice that most of it is kind of a bit shallow. That is my general, in a nutshell, take on Cyberpunk.
Right, well, before we talk about the things you didn't like as much, you mentioned that you liked the story and the characters. What in particular was it you liked about the characters? Or like, does the dialogue choices fall into that either? Or
not really. Like, I don't think the story is as flexible as you might expect. I think a lot of the big decisions you make kind of change people around the outside of the story. The central story is playing out in quite a specific way, but you may meet certain people, certain people can die, certain people won't. They don't massively impact it. It's more a case of like, 10 hours later, do you meet character A or character B in this location? That's fine. I haven't really got a problem with that because that stuff only really emerges when you play it multiple times. For your first big playthrough, it feels like it's being reactive enough. So I haven't got beef with that. In terms of the actual characters, I think the first person's perspective works brilliantly because the characters are beautifully acted and motion captured. They're beautifully animated. They have all these very specific details that kind of bring them to life. I love just sitting with these characters in first person, seeing them kind of perform like a little play. Basically, it feels a bit like sort of theatre in that sense. A lot of the missions are quite chilled. Like they're quite character led. You go and spend time with characters and hang out with them. And a lot of the missions don't have action in them. It's very story driven in that, you're just making character decisions to shape your relationships with certain people. And that's where the best stuff is in the game. Like it's where the game is actually quite subtle in many ways. It's sold itself as this big, obnoxious, it's Cyberpunk, super edgy, it's really in your face. Actually, for most of the campaign, it isn't. The characters are quite sweet. Their motivations are relatively innocent. They're just trying to be good people. Or if they are harsh, they kind of thaw as the game goes on. Particularly Johnny Silverhand is, I think, you're stuck with this very angry, abrasive character who is kind of embedded in you for story reasons. And he is actually by far probably the most caustic bit of the game.
Keanu Reeves for anyone that...
For Keanu Reeves, yeah. But even he kind of mellows or can mellow a bit. And, I think there's a lot of story dealing with basically meeting up with his friends from the past who are now aging and which are really very like nostalgic and romantic and sweet. They're full of someone trying to like reckon with people who he's kind of hurt in the past or whatever. And that to me that's where Cyberpunk really, really shines. It's about sort of finding the kind of humanity in this city, which seems very kind of hard and unlikable. Yeah, that I think, and I would say that's sort of true of The Witcher, though The Witcher isn't as like, it's kind of bleak in places, but it isn't as sort of, there's less posturing in The Witcher. But I'd say the kind of characters are recognizable from that game. Like the writing is recognizable in that it's quite warm and sweet, and you get to spend a lot of social time with people to kind of get to know them, which I like.
I had a bigger issue, or again, so I've played, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I haven't seen the story through, so I can't talk about it in a complete sense. But like they have positioned this as an RPG. And like I was expecting not every decision to matter. I'm not a complete maniac. I'm not like that. But it does feel like most conversations involve the game giving you 3 different ways to say yes or no, like whatever it is. Because if you, or even if it is 2 binary choices, often the game, it feels like the game will loop back around and get you to say the correct choice. So it does feel, it feels very linear to me in that case. Like I do enjoy the majority of the characters I've come across. I can't say the same for everything that comes out of their mouths. Like I legitimately thought until I started the game that everyone on social media and whatever else talking about, oh, I'm jacking in. I thought they were lying. I thought that was a joke. I didn't realize that was a real thing in this game. Some of the dialogue is like, let's call a spade a small shovel. It's shit. Like it really, like even the first time so you have a friend called Jackie. And one of the first times very early on, Jackie called me, my V said, "Hey, Jackster." I was like, what are you, just call him Jackie. What are you trying, like there's this weird air.
But that might be just their friendly terms with each other.
But he's not saving any time. It's a bullshit nickname. A nickname should have fewer syllables.
You're faced with a world of this scope and you're nitpicking one word.
No, but like, all right, that's an example. There are many words, Matthew. Everyone in this game feels incredibly uncool. Like, and they're obviously going for this. To me, it feels like they're going for a feeling of everyone being cool.
I think there are cool characters in it. I think, have you met Rogue at the Afterlife?
I have. Yeah. No, Rogue is all right.
I think she's great. I think she's probably the best character in the game for my money. Because she's like, she's the kind of Night City there's always talk of becoming like a legend and, basically being, atop the kind of badass hierarchy. And she does feel like that. I think she's like incredibly confident, like no mess. The some of the missions you can do with her, like draw out really interesting bits of her characters. I don't know. I think the writing in this is pretty good, actually.
Okay.
I like it. I like, I don't know if that's low standard. I liked it. I was so pleasantly surprised that how sweet a lot of the characters was. Like I really liked Jackie well. I think in those sort of early hours, you arrive in the city and it's quite overwhelming. I actually think Jackie is a really like great anchor point because he sort of explains the world to you. He's like excited about having a bit of like potential social mobility in the city. He loves the city, and I think you kind of get a bit of that from him as well. Like it sort of sets the scene really nicely.
And that's kind of where, and again, like, the caveat to everything I'm saying is that I'm yet to finish it, but there is enough drive here in the story that I will finish it. Like it's not like I am enjoying the overall story, and I think that after the first act, which I think goes a little bit too slowly, it does pick up the pace, and you get you find your motivation, and that is driving you then throughout the rest of the game. And I think there is a nice kind of a zippiness, I suppose, like within Act 2, which is where I am. I'm in a bit into that, and I've met a number of different characters and whatever else. But I suppose where I'm coming from as well is I'm putting the kind of 2 hand in hand is that, and we'll talk about it in a second. Night City, I like the world that they've created, but like it feels like Night City again thinks it's sort of better or cooler than it is with things like the advertising. Like the advertising is hilarious. Like one of the first things I saw was a poster of a lady's arse and a snake crawling towards it. And I'm not entirely sure whether that was for a drink or for, I don't know what it was. There's another one with a mustachioed man peering over again a lady's arse, and I think it says wide open or something.
I see that one a lot. It's for a thing called Bottoms Up. I have no idea what it's advertising. Like, I've looked at that poster and it's like, is it advertising the concept of like liking arses? Like, what is it actually advertising? What's the problem?
Like, you know, like that's, do you know what? Like, it feels more like, I think I would have fucking went for this game hook, line and sinker when I was like 15, you know? Like, I'd be like, oh, it's so cool, it's so edgy. But it's like you just said, what is that advertising? Or are you just being...
I think that's the pleasant surprise, is that it is this hateful place. And it is a game about finding not hateful people in that city. And that I don't think would be quite as meaningful if the city wasn't as obnoxious as it is.
Yeah.
And totally as well, like that busyness, that really is true to the center, like, you know, the center of the city. You know, its districts are distinctly flavored. Like, I think the kind of aggression of the kind of city center in terms of like the advertising and the trashiness means that when you go out into like the Badlands, which are the deserts around the city, it's actually like you have a really chill, nice time out there. I really liked that. You know, like I think the thing the city probably does better than most open worlds is it really does have a distinct energy in different areas, and it achieves that by maybe making one or two of the areas like super unpleasant to be in, as just a, you know, they're so noisy and in your face. I really like the Badlands stuff, actually, and I'm pleased that there's quite a lot of the story there. I was surprised how much of the map isn't actually used for anything in particular, in terms of side missions, story missions, because I've done all the story missions, the side missions, apart from I've got a couple of cars left to buy, but that's it. You know, I've really cleared this map out. And there are huge, interesting buildings and areas which are untouched. I guess for DLC, I guess we'll see.
Possibly.
But it does. There are things you're like, this feels too crafted to not have a bit of the game in it.
Yeah. And like you, again, I do really enjoy, you know, inhabiting this city. Things do fall apart a little bit when you examine it a bit closer, and you know, the I don't know if you want to get into that now, but like the buggy side of it, and obviously the character, like the AI being poor, the driving AI being terrible. Like,
yeah, I didn't notice that stuff being like noticeably worse than like in a GTA, for example. Me personally, I've seen plenty of videos of like mad shit happening where you're like, oh yeah, that's not good. Did
you have any game breaking bugs?
Nothing progress breaking, no. I had lots of like T poses. I had lines of dialogue that maybe didn't play, but the subtitles did. Mouths not moving. There's lots of stuff which speaks to like just a huge lack of polish, which was disappointing. A lot of it, I think it gets worse off the critical mission storyline. I think like they focused on trying to make the storyline as kind of clear and polished as possible. And then it gets shakier the further you get away from that, which is, you know, a bit dubious. It's weird because like I've been replaying a bit of Red Dead 2, and like that's obviously got a much smaller population of people, but like you go into the town and like everyone is doing something bespoke, and you can watch them for like tens of minutes going about like routines. You can't do that here. Like here, it looks amazing when you're driving past it. If you get out and like just really look at it, you see that it's just a load of NPCs just walking with they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anywhere. You know, the same lines of incidental dialogue repeat. Weirdly, I didn't really remember that from The Witcher 3. You know, in The Witcher 3, my impression of that game was riding to towns and there'd be someone doing some washing, someone chasing a chicken, someone picking some flowers. There seems to be a bit less of that in my memory compared to The Witcher. Also, the NPC dialogue is nowhere near as good as it was in The Witcher. The Witcher had, like, they'd say all kinds of funny stuff. You know, you're as pale as OT shite. And those are the guys who used to sing the little param, param, pam, pam, param song. Here, it's just like, get out of my way, mister. It's very generic. It's a weird, but again, that didn't really like, for the most part, I was just following the missions, driving from location to location. So, and the city just acts as a backdrop for that game in the same way that it does in, say, GTA or Red Dead, you know, and I actually think it works better as a sort of sandbox action game like those games than it does like a fully immersive RPG.
I mean, we haven't actually talked about the shooting yet. What do you think of that? What do you think of the actual getting a gun in your hands and shooting the baddies?
The shooting is like, I think it's fine, and it can become quite good once you've got guns and weapons you like. You know, it's a weird thing where you get a gun that feels good in your hand, that kind of fits your fantasy of what you want to do in that world, and you can stick with that gun for the whole game because you can level them up, which is quite nice. You know, you don't have to just abandon something juicy after an hour or so. And it makes it quite easy because once you've got a couple of things that are really strong, you can just level them up constantly. And basically, it's, as an RPG, kind of, you can run circles around it. I like the feel of the guns, but that's because I found a sniper rifle I really liked and a revolver I really liked. And then that was me happy. It's a bit bullet spongy to begin with, but again, you invest the right perks early on, you soften a lot of that. It handles like a fine shooter to me. I think it's a better shooter than like Deus Ex was.
I think I'd mainly agree. Like the majority of weapons that I have, and you know, I play around with them, they all seem generally quite fine. I suppose maybe I'm still at that stage where, like, when I pick up a gun, I like to see what it can do, because these guns within the Cyberpunk, you know, some of them have bullets that can ricochet off walls. What else can they do, Matthew? There are other little bits and pieces that these guns can do. Just they all have little quirks. Well, some of them do. So, like, yeah, I think as a shooter, I think it works well. Like, I will say that I don't know, again, how far I am to the end or anything like that, but I have something like 140 med packs currently.
It's like, yeah, the game is not very well balanced as a like nuts and bolts like RPG where you need buffs and things. You know, I played it on hard as recommended, and you can just run circles around it without like, and it wasn't doing any like cunning min-maxing or anything like that. I was investing in quite a low-level spread of perks just to see what the trees were doing. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like it's, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but it feels like it's designed to be such a mainstream piece of entertainment that it doesn't really delve deep into like any nerdiness at all. Like I didn't once think about like builds and, you know, having to invest in things. I had about 100 different consumables. I never took a single one. And it's like, this will boost this for 10 minutes. And it's like, you don't need any of that. Like, you just don't need it.
I'm glad you said that, because
it's just an action game, really.
Yeah, because like I again, I'm at the stage where I'm at, and I haven't once consumed a consumable. I haven't I was telling a lie. I've probably gone to it by mistake when tabbing from left to right, but I haven't looked at the crafting system really because there is no need to. Like the gear and the weapons that you pick up off enemies are perfectly fine. They will kill the baddies, maybe, and sometimes they're actually better than what you can craft. So like I there are so many systems here that I haven't really played with, but I've just I don't really feel like there's much need to.
The other weird thing is because so many of the side missions are like narrative driven, the character that you build, like from a mechanical perspective, really doesn't matter. Like, they're honestly, I'd say a good half of the side missions don't have any shooting, hacking there in them at all. Like, you are just, it is for all intents and purposes a walking simulator. That isn't a criticism of the game. Like, that's absolutely fine. It's the right tone for those stories. You're just walking through environments, chatting to people. I like the writing. I like the characters. But I was never able to quite, like, it never sat easily that there was this sort of, like I said, sort of two games happening, that I was this sort of bundle of mechanical abilities that I was very rarely using in the main game. And by the time I finished all the story stuff, I was so over-leveled. Doing anything else just felt quite rudimentary. Like, it's got, I think probably one of the big problems with the game is it's got no late level stuff going for it at all. Like, the hardest stuff in the game taps out probably around level 30. And then you're just mopping it up. And this whole thing of like, you can approach buildings in all these different ways. At that point, you've got so many tools and toys. It doesn't matter. Like, go in shooting, hack your way in, double jump onto the roof and just drop through a skylight. It doesn't matter. All three of them, I can do all three. I don't feel like my character has been pushed down one of these avenues. It's a game where you have to like almost forget a lot of stuff exists for it to be satisfying. Because I've seen people going like, oh yeah, but you can, choose to go in quietly. And you're like, yeah, but there's no threat. There's no excitement to that. Because I also know if it goes wrong, I'll just pull out the gun that auto-targets everyone and just go, and then everyone's dead.
You've nicely brought me onto the stealth aspect of it, because I'm guessing, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing you predominantly played it the way that I play it, which is go in stealthily, do a bit of stealth, and if you're seen and shit hits the fan, I just start shooting people, it's fine.
Yeah, like, in most places, there are some places that are a bit quick loading to fix it. I mean, the stealth is not very sophisticated. You've got all these hacks, which is really the stealth side of the game, because you can hack things to like distract people or whatever. But a lot of the hacks I felt were different names for the same thing. If you blind an enemy, deafen an enemy, distract an enemy, whistle an enemy over to your position, those are all basically the same action. It's
right.
Get rid of a pair of eyes for a second so you can do something else. The fact that one of the perks is whistle, which is like the most hackneyed stealth mechanic. Hide in a room, whistle an enemy, they come to you, knock them out. I mean, that isn't a high-tech feature. That the idea that you're hacking a whistle into their head. What about you just fucking whistle? Like, that's insane. I like the hacks in combat because they're a bit more malicious. You make guns jam, you can make characters kill themselves, you can make characters lose their minds. That feels more like high-level play, not high-level play, but high-level stuff, because you have to buy the right sort of cyber deck, I think it's called, to plug powerful mods into. So it kind of keeps you away from like the game-breaking stuff until the end. And there is a chance this is what they wanted. They just wanted to be such a power fantasy that whatever you do, you win in the last 10, 15 hours of clearing the map. But I feel like, my save file is on about at the point of no return. It's about 68 hours, and I've cleared the map out of pretty much everything. And the last 10 hours, they were not very interesting at all. Like, I was just like, the end game is saving up money to buy a load of fucking cars. And you buy a load of cars, and then you're like, what am I meant to do with these cars? There are no races. There are 4 races in Night City in the whole game. And yet you buy 40 cars. You can fast travel to any location. What are you buying all these cars for? What are they actually for? They're not used for anything. It's absolutely baffling in so many ways. And it's almost like a game that I really enjoyed when I was playing it. But like the second you think about any of it, you're like, this makes no sense. Like this, and you know,
that's actually that's a great way of putting it, yeah.
And arguably, you could say, well, if that stuff doesn't like manifest when you're playing it, does it matter? Like, if you're not thinking of those criticisms, and you're like, no, but also this could have been so much more. There's so much going on in this game that actually it just doesn't really connect with. And once I was done with the story content, really the quality of the game, I thought, absolutely plummeted. I thought once I wasn't finding bespoke stuff anymore, just clearing out the same gang fight 100 times over, not interesting, like mechanically very, very inert. I was like, I sort of liked it more and more and more, and then I kind of grew more disappointed with it afterwards. Well, not afterwards, during it, but it just, I don't think it's balanced right at all. It just seems troubled to me, and it's kind of horrible to say it because there's so much amazing stuff. There's so much best in class stuff here. Genuinely, I do think the world is like a visual feat on PC where I can get it running quite well. Admittedly, I've got a mega rig, so that makes it easier. But, I am stunned by this world. The character animations, I think the voice acting is brilliant on the main characters. Keanu Reeves is the weak link, hilariously.
Isn't he?
So wooden compared to everyone else.
Johnny Silverhand as a character, not spoiling anything, like he needs to be, he's forever angry. He's just an angry man. And Keanu is such, typically anyway, he is a very stoic, placid actor that it just doesn't work. You need somebody a bit more maniacal, it just doesn't work. It just
it's one of these games where I think you almost kind of have to play it, really. It feels like a game you kind of have to play to have an opinion on. There is amazing stuff here. There's so much craft and so many people absolutely knocked it out the park on this. There's 1,000 tiny details I love about this game and its world. But it just feels like it never quite, right at the top level, didn't really know what it set out to be. Is it a really nerdy Deus Ex sort of immersive sim? Is it a absolute open world GTA romp? It's kind of a bit of both. They don't gel.
I would say it is more Rockstar. For me anyway, I
think so too. And I think it's better when it's like that. If anything, I think its set pieces are way better than Rockstar set pieces, which I always find a little bit janky. I think the heist and when it all kicks off at the start, a great set piece, really exciting. There's some assassination and sort of infiltrations. And in those moments, I was like, oh, this is absolutely the stuff. This is the business. But the game around it, I think, is just all over the place. I just don't really know what it's meant to be. And I didn't feel that about The Witcher. I thought The Witcher was super confident. I think The Witcher's systems are brilliantly tied into who Geralt is as a profession, who his role in that story. I didn't feel any of this in The Witcher. And it maybe sounds like I'm coming down a bit harder on Cyberpunk. I'm not. I had a really good time with this game.
I don't think it sounds that at all.
There are hours of this game where it is a absolute 10 out of 10 for me. But there are also chunks where it is a 6 out of 10 muddle. And it's such a shame, that they didn't have that time or take more time to get it in a state where it's good for everyone, which, we're talking about the PC version. What's happening on current gen or last gen or whatever you're calling it?
Yeah,
it is unacceptable to advertise a game.
I did mention this off the top. They're obviously it's dominated the news cycle, and only a few hours before recording, there was word of Sony are offering refunds for those on PlayStation 4 because it's just
I haven't played. I've only watched the videos of it, but my God, it's just this was never a current gen game. I just couldn't be.
I've lost a thread of side missions because of a bug.
Right.
Basically, it's the car ones. We have to go after Delamain's cars. I tried to collect a car. Another car had spawned on top of that. And I was like, well, I can't do anything. So I walked away and then just on the screen got loads of quest failed, quest failed, quest failed. I was like, fine. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but I've got I haven't been more torn on a game than this for like a long time. You know, it is just, it's very rare that like it has so much potential, and you know, my annoyances with it are more disappointments. I think when it hits the potential, that game is like easily one of the year's best. You know, but that all the stuff that doesn't work or doesn't add up, I think is just, I don't know, it's a real letdown. But felt like those were decisions that should have had to be made, or it had to have gone in a different direction like 5 years ago or something. It's like what it is just feels, incoherent. So I'd rather, I know, maybe this is just me personally, coherence is super, super important in games. I'd rather something that was less ambitious but totally coherent than really ambitious.
100%.
You know, that for me personally, but
100%.
I played it for 70 hours. I'll definitely play any DLC when they do that.
Yeah, like Cyberpunk 2077, it's all right. Like it's a thing. It is
a thing,
decent.
all right.
And yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the new year when we come back with the week spot, I'll have played more and have even more to say on the week spot. Who knows?
It's time for Mystery Steam Reviews. Yeah.
Yes, Mystery Steam Reviews is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colin Ahern, and he, Matthew Castle, test the knowledge of one another via Steam Reviews. But for those new here are the rules. So both I and Matthew bring 3 Steam Reviews to the MSR Arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. One correct answer equals 1 point. While both of us have 90 seconds on each MSR, we both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines. These lifelines can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline can only be used once, and they are as follows. Question, where the hot seat haver gets to ask a yes or no question. Second opinion, where a second Steam review is given to the warm chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse, Matthew. The warm cyber arse this week, in fact, as
cyber ass.
We are keeping it thematic, I suppose, by focusing on games with a cyberpunk setting. So we'll see if everyone has stuck to the rules this week. Little bit of hassle last week, but I think we got through it. Also, I suppose maybe now is as good a time as any to say it. There was some debate over Oblivion Gate, which actually is a gate, isn't it? I think it's a long time since I played it. Where even we discussed it on that Mystery Steam Reviews, but we're going to be a little more lenient when it comes to awarding scores to people. So last week's The Elder Scrolls Oblivion would have been an example of in this new scoring system where Matthew would have been given that point. It doesn't mean that if somebody goes completely off the wall and gives the wrong name, yet they know what the name of the game is, that still won't stand. It needs to be
like the Elder Scrolls wouldn't cut it for the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, for example.
Yeah. You know,
and a wrong subtitle as well.
This is an ever-evolving thing, Mystery Steam Review.
I think we'll know a right answer when we hear one, but we promise to be less petty.
But still,
I promise to be less petty.
Matthew, would you like your first Cyberpunk Steam review?
I would.
An underrated masterpiece. Mixes up successfully a fantastic art style, setting, bunch of gameplay elements from different genres, and an extremely fun combat that requires some tactical approach depending on the enemy. One of the best of 2013. And that is recommended 12.1 hours on record, 10.1 hours at time of review. And Matthew, your time starts now.
So it mixes up successfully a fantastic art style setting, different genres, fun combat. One of the best of 2013. What happened in 2013 that was cyberpunky? What happened in 2013? I mean, those are all quite generic terms. I can think of lots of games which tick all of those boxes, I would say. But something that's more maybe combat focused, if it's got a good combat system.
Have your lifelines?
Yeah. Hit me up with the genre.
Okay, let's pause the timer there.
Getting it's a bit of a hard read on this one.
Okay, as Matthew enacts his genre lifeline. So the genre of this video game, timer paused at 39 seconds. The genre is an action adventure video game. Would you like to use any other lifelines, or would you like me to restart?
An action adventure video game.
Okay, restarting the timer now.
I wondered if this was the thing that they followed up, the follow-up to Bastion, but I can't remember what it's called. Maybe Transistor? It's got quite a good art style. And combat. But was that 2013? Oh, I'm a bit bad on my dates here.
10 seconds.
Listen, I don't really know. I'm gonna say Transistor. I think that's probably wrong. I don't even know if it's Cyberpunk, to be honest.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Oh, what a sad little final answer. Right, Matthew. So you kind of said, a lot of generic terms, nothing that you really picked out on. And 2013. An action-adventure video game has led you to Transistor, and I can tell you that
it's not really an action-adventure game, is it? Not really.
I can tell you that Transistor is the wrong answer. The correct answer. I thought the combat maybe might lead you down that path because it definitely had a kooky combat system that some people went for, some people didn't. But the correct answer. No, this game I'm about to say.
Okay.
Well, Transistor 2, funnily enough. But the correct answer was Remember Me.
Is that a Cyberpunk game?
Oh, we're having our first. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's set in Paris with everyone being.
It's set in Paris.
But it's set in a future Paris where people have. Hold on.
It's cool. It's a futuristic version of Paris called Neo Paris.
Yeah, so that sounds pretty cyberpunk to me, I would say.
Okay.
I think that's pretty
Remember
cyberpunk.
Me. But ironically, I didn't.
And I actually had quite a good second opinion on that. I thought it would have maybe led you down the right path. But, c'est la vie. C'est la vie. Matthew, could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
Yes. One of the most convincing city simulations I've played. It's very detailed and busy, with gorgeous architecture and some great side quests that combine to make you something of a morally ambiguous character. That's from Steve Beck. Recommended 38.7 hours on record.
Okay, time starts now. Talk about ambiguous. City simulations. It's very detailed and busy with gorgeous architecture and some great side quests that combine to make you something of a morally ambiguous character. That could be loads of video games. Because we spoke about it for a half an hour, Cyberpunk is obviously in my head, but it can't be that. It could be maybe Deus Ex. Can I'm gonna, should I use my... No, hold on, let's calm down about using our lifelines. It's never I don't think, alright, so I was gonna say it's never Cyberpunk, is it? Have we had Deus Ex on this already? We have.
Today? No, just remember me.
Well, yes, I know. I might say Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, morally ambiguous cities. Although, hang on, no, you go to different places. No. Would you have played Cyberpunk for that many hours? I mean, some people probably have. No. Oh, shit. 10 seconds. I'm going to say this person... I know Deus Ex Human Revolution happened in loads of places, but I think that's all I have. Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer, Chris.
So, you've honed in on Deus Ex Human Revolution, drawn there by their description of city, I believe. Could have been Cyberpunk, also a city-set game, also has great side quests, and something of a morally ambiguous character. The correct answer is Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Oh.
Oh, son of a gun.
I thought the gorgeous architecture, because it's European, would maybe spring to mind kind of Prague rather than...
yeah. I mean, Deus Ex Human Revolution obviously sits deeper in the memory bank than Mankind Divided because it's the superior game. But yeah, maybe I could have got that. Anyway,
Second clue probably would have fixed that for you.
Probably would have.
I would say a very poor use of lifelines.
Matthew, would you like your second mystery Steam review?
Yeah, hit me up.
Missions are boring and repetitive. Puzzles are plagued by platformer mechanics. And that's from Hippie Hunter. It is not recommended. 4.2 hours on record. Matthew, your time starts now.
I have no fucking clue. Give me that second review.
Oh dear. All right. Okay. Let me.
What's that clock?
Let me pause. I'll add a couple of. It's paused at 1:20, but I'll give you an extra couple of seconds grace. What did you want?
Second clue.
Okay.
Second opinion, whatever we're calling it.
Yours. It's dedication to the brand. The second opinion of this game is predictable story, unnecessary open world, frustrating controls. And hang on, I'll tell you how long. They played it for 8.6 hours. It's not recommended as well. I'm going to restart the timer now.
Puzzles, but with bad platforming. Oh my god. I'm getting absolutely whipped. I can't... Open world, but it's got bad platforming. Puzzles in an open world. I mean, is that... Deus Ex needs to be open world, and it isn't really open world. What's an open world city with, like a really open world city? Cyberpunk. With bad platforming. Oh my god. I'm really blanking on this.
You have your question. And
yeah, I have no idea.
Seconds.
I need to save it to like maybe scrape back one in the last question. Platforming puzzles in a futuristic world. Better not be fucking Remember Me again.
No, I think there's an unwritten law that you don't repeat. I think we're both stuck with that. 10 seconds, Matthew.
Oh, I have... I have no idea.
I need an answer. An answer.
I don't know. I've got no answer. I don't know. I've got no fucking answer. I've got no fucking answer, Chris, alright? You've absolutely done me, alright? Fantastic. Congrats. You've embarrassed me on national TV.
You used your second opinion. Matthew, I can tell you that is the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just say a video game?
I just couldn't think of a ever fucking.
You were mentioning Deus Ex. The correct answer, I mean, it wasn't Deus Ex, but the correct answer was Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Of course.
Platforming, first person. That was the old when they went to open world.
Oh, I'm such a fool.
Don't talk yourself down, Matthew. You can pull this back.
Incredibly mediocre game.
Did you actually? You were one of the 5 that played it.
Oh. God damn it.
God, they should have. Mirror's Edge Catalyst is an example of, you know, the sequel that was in all of our heads would have been better.
This is gonna this is gonna be a wash. This
I mean, it could be 0-0. Yeah, we'll see. Matthew, could I have my second mystery Steam review, please?
This game is heat, bruh. Like, you go zoom and ching, and then the bad guys are like, no, OMG, 10 out of 10. By Cammy the 6th. Or Cammy 6. Recommended 5.9 hours on record, 5.9 at time of review.
Time starts now. The game is heat, bro. Like, you go zoom and shing, and then the bad guys are like, no, OMG, 10 out of 10. Right, so I have 2 in my head straight away. And then it becomes which one. So, we even spoke about it on this show many, many moons ago. Ghost Runner, which is a game you played where you play as Grey Fox and you chop all the people down. But there's also Katana Zero, which... Is that Cyberpunk? Yeah, I think that's Cyberpunk.
I would say it is.
I think it is. Which is the 2D better Ghost Runner. I don't know. It's like a Blade in Miami. But it's not fast. Like, it's not. Well, is it? It's fast, but like Ghost Runner is faster. Shit, I have all my lifelines, do I? I do as well. No, do you know what? I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to go into the last one with all my lifelines. I'm going to say, Katana Zero or Ghost Runner. With 15 seconds.
A clue could clarify this.
It could clarify it. You've done me, pausing the timer at 5 seconds. You've done me, Matthew. I wanted to do a Mystery Steam reviews first and go into the thing with all lifelines, but yeah, I am going to use what would benefit me most. Maybe, yeah, I'm going to use my second opinion lifeline, please,
okay.
Matthew.
The second opinion is fancy dressed crackhead with techno music, AirPods, and a sword single-handedly solves overpopulation.
Overpopulation is a tough one. I am going to say what's it called? Ghost Runner. Chris.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
So, you put this down to Ghost Runner or Katana Zero? You couldn't quite decide? You used your second opinion, which told you in this game you played as a crackhead who listens to techno music on their AirPods.
Crackhead! No!
And yet, you still opted for Ghost Runner.
God,
This could have been the perfect use of a second opinion to clarify some confusion. The correct answer is Katana Zero.
What was I... When you said the word...
You are really bad at...
listening. Yeah, I know.
Second opinions that give you the answer.
You said crackhead. For some reason, I focused on the overpopulation.
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know which is... Because you're in Katana Zero, you're popping the pills.
And he puts his headphones at the start of the level and listen. That was... I mean, I'm doing terribly in this, but that was embarrassing.
That was
I
bad.
would say right now, even though the scores are 0-0, I am winning. Because
I would disagree because you didn't even participate in your second mystery steam review.
I would say not participating was better than what you just did.
I would politely disagree.
That was a bed shitting of the most aggressive kind.
Matthew, do you want your third? Go on, save it. Pull it back from the brink. Jack in, Matthew. Here is your third Mystery Steam review. Game is very wacky and uncharacteristic. It's very quirky and not like the other games. You can flip people off. And that's from Undercoder. It is recommended 30.8 hours on record. Matthew, your time starts now.
Oh, I'm so bad at this fucking genre. It's not like the other games. So it's a cyberpunk. It's a sort of a cyberpunky series. I can only think of Deus Ex, but it's not that. You can flip people off.
I love that our answer to everything is Deus Ex.
That's all I can think. Well, that was CD Projekt Red's answer to most things too, it turns out. I wish I... Well, I've got a question.
You do. So I can pause the timer. And Matthew, what is your question?
Is this game first person?
Is this game first person? Let me just hold on. I'm just going to double check here. Just typing in. Type. Yes, this video game is first person. So I'm going to restart the timer at 58 seconds now.
You can't flip people off in Deus Ex. That isn't very Adam Jensen. That isn't his vibe. I don't see him with a robo finger. First person. It's not Mirror's Edge. She doesn't flip people off. First person game with a cyberpunk thing. Ghost Runner isn't a series, so that doesn't work.
15 seconds.
Unless it's a shit review and it is a series and it is Ghost Runner. Does he seems like he'd be like
2 seconds.
Fucking Ghost Runner, piss. I know it's not a series. I'm gambling on the reviewer being an idiot. I know it's wrong. Oh, Jesus. What an absolute wash.
So, when the review was put to you, Matthew, you chuckled to yourself and said, God, I am terrible at this genre. But, after asking a question and figuring out that this is indeed a first-person game, you went through the obvious ones like Deus Ex, but you have ended up on Ghost Runner.
Which isn't a series, I know.
I can tell you that Ghost Runner is the wrong answer.
I mean, obviously.
It's the wrong answer, Matthew. Oh, how embarrassing. But look, let's see if I can... Have we ever had... Oh, sorry, yeah. The correct answer... Hold on, let me double... Yeah, it was. The correct answer was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
That isn't a cyberpunk game.
It's not like the other series. And yes, that is a cyberpunk game. Isn't it? It is.
Is it?
It is. I'm not sure. Do either of us know what cyberpunk is? I think we do. I'm pretty sure Blood Dragon, if you look up Blood Dragon Cyberpunk, I'm pretty sure I got it off the Cyberpunk tags on Steam. People calling it Cyberpunk. Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, people saying it's...
Yeah, maybe the two of us should have figured out what Cyberpunk is.
Fucking absolute shit.
Matthew.
What a nightmare.
I don't know if we've ever had a 0-0 draw here.
If they do, the weak spot gets taken off the air. For good.
Right, well, you better help me here, Matthew, could I have my third Mystery Steam review, please?
Parking spot searching simulator. After 5 hours, I've searched for parking slots and NPCs. Robster XXL recommended 7.3 hours, 5.6 at time review.
A Robster XXL. Time starts now. Parking spots searching simulator. After 5 hours, I've searched for parking slots. I don't know if that's a misspelling or a clue. And NPCs. So all I can think of is... hold on. What am I doing thinking? I have things, lifeline. So I'm going to pause the timer at 1 minute and 1 second. Matthew, could I have my genre, please?
Is this remind me, is this the genre on Wikipedia or Steam?
This is the Wikipedia genre.
So Wikipedia unhelpfully describes this as just an adventure game.
Okay, and while I'm here, I'm going to use my question.
Yes.
And I am going to... in this video game...
Yeah.
Do you... are you predominantly placed behind the wheel of a car?
Yes.
I think I'm just going to shoot for Neocab because I haven't played, what's it called? Cloudpunk, is it? I think I'm just going to shoot for Neocab. Chris, if you want to ask me if that's my final answer.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, Chris, that is my final answer.
So, you limited it down to Neocab and Cloudpunk. We thought this was a game where you spent the time predominantly behind the wheel, and indeed that was proven by your use of a question. It is described as an adventure game. But did you pick the right cab-based adventure game? The correct answer is... Cloudpunk.
Oh, brilliant.
What an absolute shit show.
Oh, marvellous. What a... Oh, I think that's my favourite Mystery Steam reviews ever.
That is the worst round of Mystery Steam reviews we've ever played. I couldn't even think of the names of 3
Video
individual Cyberpunk games. You had the correct answer given to you and ignored it.
Jesus Christ.
This is the darkest future that we are striding towards.
Oh, I enjoyed that. That was good. Yes, that screaming man signals the beginning of another Burning Questions where we take your questions, whatever they may be. Of course, you can contact us at any stage throughout the week. Weekspot at rockpapershotgun.com. And we have a couple of burning questions here, Matthew. The first one comes from Mog, who gave us a tenner.
Oh, Mog, you're so kind.
So kind. Thank you so much, Mog. And if you want to give us money, as we said before, you can watch the PC Gaming Weekspot on YouTube when it premieres on Tuesday evenings. Mog asks, first said, thanks, Matthew, for the cereal info. Choco Rice Pops are indeed tastier than Cocoa Pops. Question, Christmas lunch, turkey, chicken or goose? Roasted or deep fried?
Goose is so opulent, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a bit too Dickensian for my liking. We have roast turkey.
Boringly, yeah. I also, I've always gone for the correct option, which is roast turkey.
My Christmas food hot take is I much prefer the Boxing Day follow-up where we have cold cuts of meat.
Is that a hot take?
And the vegetables as bubble and squeak.
I think a lot of people like the turkey sandwiches. They're very tasty.
Bubble and squeak, that's key.
That's the key. All right, okay.
It's really bubble and squeak with some meat.
Have you ever had, throughout your years on this earth, have you ever had anything but turkey on Christmas Day?
We
I
may
don't think I
had
have.
turkey and a second bird.
Right.
Because
Okay.
my stepdad likes gamey meat, so maybe
Okay.
he'd have a little smaller
Little goosey. Little
a little
goosey goose.
bonus wild fowl on the side. Bit of pheasant or something.
Hairy Coo got in touch and said, "You're on death row, you naughty lad, and your execution date is tomorrow." I'm sorry to bring you this news, Matthew.
Oh shit.
You are allowed to play 8 hours of any video game of your choice as a small mercy.
Thanks.
What game do you choose? Final meal to what would you have, Goose? Your 8 hours to play with a video game, Matthew. What do you play?
The thing is, whatever I played, it would become so tainted with like
Your
just
death.
a general like vibe of my imminent demise. So like, you know, I love Mario Galaxy, but if I was playing Mario Galaxy, I'd associate all that joyous color and music with like the undercurrent of sadness that I'm going to have a lethal injection tomorrow. And so it would probably ruin it for me. Admittedly, I'm not alive for long for me to like dwell on that. But like for the minutes between finishing my 8 hours and going to the chair, I'd be like, oh, geez, Mario's really bummed me out. If anything, it's better to play something you hate to kind of, so it doesn't become kind of
Is
corrupted.
this?
Yeah.
But as you said, you're not alive for long. So it'd be different if you were like, you're going to die in a year's time. Like you're dying pretty much as soon as you put down the controller. You'll be dead. So
in which case, maybe like bursting out of a volcano at the end of a Mario Galaxy level, just as they press the button or whatever it is that you do.
Slight hint of happiness before.
Like
Oh,
I
your
want to
untimely
be,
demise.
I want to be like, woohoo! Really, I want the people watching to have a really like nasty experience of it too. Assuming that there is a crowd, I want them to be like so much joy and then pulled into just horror.
I don't know. Is it better to play something story driven, or is it better to play something like repetitive that you enjoy? Like, because I was going to say like, I don't know, the original Metal Gear Solid, but then could you finish? Like, you might be able to finish Metal Gear Solid in 8 hours.
You finish that in 8 hours.
Are you sure? Like, whilst watching all the cutscenes?
Oh, you might have to skip some of the codec.
Like, see, that's what I mean. And then like, I want the complete experience. But then if I end up
mid codec would be wrong. We're like fucking how bollocking on, and you're like,
just as Master Miller is about to say, "Dear brother," and it's like, "Come on, you have to die now." I was like, "No, I need to find out, is this Master Miller or Liquid Snake?" As far as final meal, I don't know. What do I like?
I joked on the podcast once that I'd pick something that was really inconvenient, that would take them a lot of time to make, to sort of stretch out my life. So I'd ask for them something. I thought of asking for a McDonald's dish that's no longer being made, so that McDonald's has to bring it back just so that they can execute me. So, for example, the McRib. If they're not currently doing the McRib, you'd say, I want a McDonald's McRib. And then not only does McDonald's have to bring back the McRib so that they can execute me, but anyone who then eats the McRib at McDonald's will also know that it's only back on the menu because they needed to kill a man. And it would just totally change the entire conversation around the McRib. I want to taint it for everyone. Really vindictive final act.
And I'll have a chicken kung po. Thanks very much. Our next question is from Philip, who said, Colm, as a Cork boy, why do you think so few video games use Ireland as a setting? And with that question in mind, are you looking forward to seeing Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ireland DLC and how they handle the accents? Likely terribly. I mean, do few video games use Ireland as a location, like in comparison to other locations? I'm not sure they do. Like the majority of video games are set in either America or Britain, which is where the majority of like films are set as well, and TV shows and whatever else. So I don't think, Ireland more than fucking wherever. Turkey, I don't know. But yeah, like, I mean, am I looking forward to seeing the Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC? I always, there is an element of intrigue whenever I know somebody will be doing something that's set in Ireland or have Irish people there, because I don't know, it's like, all right, go on then. Like that new film starring Emily Blunt, Christopher Walken, Jamie Dornan. I can't remember the name of the film, but like it is atrocious. The depiction of Ireland and the accents there. So there is I'll definitely keep an eye on it, because I find that stuff it makes me morbidly curious. Kroom asks, pancakes or waffles?
Interesting.
Is it? Is it not a fairly straightforward? Like, see, I've had way more pancakes than waffles in my life, because typically throughout mine, and I'm guessing Matthew's lives, if somebody says waffles, they'll probably be talking about potato waffles.
Potato waffles.
They'll even sing the song as well. So like, by default, I feel like I would pick pancakes.
I don't like. I like American breakfast pancakes.
American. Oh,
I don't like our
thin
flat.
ones.
I don't. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'm not into those. But I like breakfast pancakes for sure, with maple syrup and all that jazz.
Yeah, they're fine. And Warren got in touch. Warren said, I had a negative emotional reaction to the story of a game I played recently and felt compelled to leave a negative Steam review in which I related my feelings, brackets, without cursing. I thought that would be the end of it. Then I saw the game's writer on Twitter despairing over my review. I felt quite bad, partly because he seemed not to understand my perspective, partly because he seemed quite distressed himself, and partly because I was suddenly afraid that fans of the game might hunt me down. You gents are experienced reviewers. How do you feel when developers directly respond to your criticisms of their games? Have these responses ever troubled you? And how did you deal with that? Cheers, Warren. Can you remember any time you reviewed a game and you gave it a 6 or a 7 or like a perfectly fine score, and then felt the wrath of a developer or publisher? Or
I reviewed a David Cage game in Edge magazine, which is obviously anonymous, and David Cage, I know, hated that review because whenever anyone from Edge went to interview him after that, he'd give them like both barrels about it, which was hilarious, as it was none of them, it was me. And he said he thought I'd reviewed him rather than his game.
right.
I would argue you can't really separate the two by his design. And, you know, he'll take the praise. You know, if you want to be an auteur, you've got to answer up to it. And anyway, I didn't review him. I reviewed his lousy game. And
I mean, I was going to say, you didn't actually have to mention. Do you want me to bleep out the person, or are you all right?
oh no, that's fine.
All right,
I'm
okay.
never going to meet the guy. Yeah, I like some of his games, but this one was actually no. This one marked the no. Actually, I'll take that back. I liked Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yes, yeah. I reviewed a game at a time, and I gave it a score I deemed fair. If anything, it was maybe no, it was fair. It was fair. But I didn't hear from the developer themselves. But I know the developer got in touch with somebody at my place of work, and they weren't happy with the review and said that I didn't get it. But I can tell you, without revealing the game, I most certainly got it, and thought it was. Yeah, that's enough on that. But like,
but generally, no. I mean,
yeah, I think like most people are.
Yeah, I've been isolated from stuff by editors and kept away from it, so that was fine. I don't really worry too much. I also don't, I talk about it as a game, as a relatively abstract thing. It's not like I'm going after the people who made it specifically. So I feel like relatively confident in what I say. As long as it's honest review, you can always back it up. So,
and that's exactly it. Like, if as long as you don't lie, or like you cast aspersions on their character or whatever.
I think that there are points where you sometimes see not direct response to you, but you see them talking about it where they're like, "Oh, people didn't get it." Developers may say, "You didn't get this" or whatever, and I would still say that is their failing. Like, if you made a game where people were unable to get it, then that is on you. You have to accept that is partially on you. That has bugged me at points, because then that's the language of like, there was something wrong with you that you didn't understand. And I've also heard several developers say, well, actually the only reviews that are valuable to us are the ones that didn't get it, because then it becomes the task of like, well, why didn't they? What did we do wrong that they didn't? If there's potential for confusion there, how can we change that? People who are just like, fuck you didn't understand my game. I'm quietly confident I can understand video games.
So if you want to reach the PC Gaming Weekspot and send in your burning questions, you can email us at any stage of any week, weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. So that just about does it for this week's edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot, the Cyber Edition. But if you want more of I or Matthew or any more Weekspot goodness, there are a couple of things you can do. So you can follow me on social media at Colin_Hearn. You can follow Matthew on social media at Mr. Basil_Pesto. Also, if you want to talk to some lovely like-minded people, get on Discord, discord.gg/rockpapershotgun. Also, if you want to see the video version of this, head to YouTube, youtube.com/rockpapershot. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and then ring the bell. That way you'll be notified of when future episodes of the PC Gaming Weekspot appear there. Or, if you prefer audio, you can subscribe to the Weekspot podcast via all your podcatching apps, such as TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of them. You can subscribe to it there, so do that. But for all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com. Another weak spot down, Matthew, as you have also gone down. You seem to have gotten shorter for some reason. Next week is our final...
deflated after Mystery Steam reviews.
Next week is our final PC Gaming Week spot of the year, and it will be a special one, as myself and Matthew will be discussing our favourite video games. Some would call them our games of the year for 2020. So look forward to that. And also, if you want to let us know your games of the year for 2020, do email, again, weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. So now it's time for my least favourite part of the show. This is the part of the show where I bid the listener, the viewer, the consumer adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colin Mahern, Sloan Gafford.